the moral of the story. Anyway, it's not good in today's world. In those days, you become a marty. Go on. So that's the sword going in. Okay, we just finished one more panel. We have a short break, and then we go into the more detailed ones. Now, we saw the churning of the ocean, right? So Amrit comes. Why is the Amrit coming out? What does the Amrit give you? Immortality. So Garuda had a bet. Garuda's mother had a bet. You know the story of Garuda? So his mom lost a bet with a sister. And to get rid of that curse, she was a slave. Garuda had to give the Amrit back to his cousins, the 100 snakes. So at that time when he was going, he was very hungry. So the monks told him to go. In that mountain there is one huge tortoise and one huge elephant fighting. Eat them. So he caught them both and he went and parked himself on a tree without knowing there were rishis praying under. So he caught them in the beak when they were falling down. And this story is depicted in Tirukkurungudi. Again, you have the Amachutta Kada reference. So even these small details are depicted in our temples. So yeah. So we'll take a short break now. Enough of stories, we go into hardcore historic and iconography. Yeah. Don't be bored. If you are bored, tell me, we come back to storytelling. Okay. Good. All of us back? Anybody escape to the back door? Okay, now enough of storyboards. We are going to go into hardcore history. So you have history in your school books? Let's see how much of your history you are going to see here. I bet not less than 10%. If I show more than 10%, then I fail. So I have to show you stuff that you don't know. So we're going to show you structures built by man, by hands of man, much older, as temple structures. And Arvind and me have visited a few sites. Arvind has visited more sites. So we are going to give you a rough introduction between, say, the core you're going to see from the 4th century BC to the 10th century. In the 1400 years, how the temple architecture evolved to come to structural temples. So today the second session will stop at the 10th century, but we are going to talk something about prehistory. Yeah. So Arvind will do a little bit of prehistory, and then we are going to go into structural temples, still structural temples. Next time, if I get the honor, we do structural temples again.
So when we speak of early human, Homo sapiens, they lived in forests, the first thing we say is that they lived in caves. The man lived in caves in smaller units. And what did he do? He painted. That is the first, how we know when did the settlement start. All that we rely upon is paintings. So we have a lot of paintings in prehistoric caves in India throughout. One of the biggest sites or well-known sites is Bhimbetka. But in Bhimbetka, okay, and in Nilgiris region, we have quite a lot of prehistoric art still left, and still a lot of places frequented by the tribals. So we can have a separate session on the prehistoric painting art of India, because that's by itself a vast piece. So those are natural caves. People resided there. They cooked their food there. There was smoke. With the smoke, whatever charcoal they collected, they started doing the initial thing. Then they found the natural stones. They ground it, made a paste of it, used fat, animal fat, mixed with it, used eggs, and started creating through experimentation various colors, and then they used that to paint. Some of those are perfectly very in Uttarakhand there are sites, in Bihar there are sites, Madhya Pradesh there are sites, almost Maharashtra there are numerous sites. So these are sites which are enormous amount of prehistoric art. Prehistoric art does not mean that it is all confined to some 2000 years or 25,000 years. It starts somewhere around 25,000 years, and it could be as recent as some 800 years ago. Why? Because the nature of that art and people who still practice it, the tribals who still live in remote areas, have been practicing it over and over their one generation after another, and they have passed on. So there are still living art of prehistoric art that is happening in India. So what are the different, when we come to man-made, when we talk here about cave temples, we talk about cave temples that were created by man, not the natural caves that were created because of some rock slides or some wind or water activities, but purely these were man-made caves. So why did they start making these caves? The intention was to create a proper place for worship which will withstand the test of time. Earlier they were making temples or a place of common, meaning it was social gathering, a place of social gathering. They could use it for worship, they could use it for various other social activities like having a court, a registry, and many other functions, including educational schools, were all a common place. A society needed a common place to function. And one of that, the function was a place of worship. So they were creating it through mud temples and hut or bamboos and other. These were all materials that were ultimately perishable. So they went from there to creating temples that would not perish. So that happens only with the advent of Buddhism. Prior to Buddhism, everything that were created were of perishable material. And this was the prime difference between the Vedic religion that was prevalent to the Buddhist, because this was associated by the Vedic religion, the rock and rock related place of worship, as anti-Vedic or non-Vedic practices till very late. So the early art that you would see in caves will be predominantly Jain or Buddhist. So this is the oldest known cave in India, 3rd century CE, Ramaslashi, as it's called. It has an inscription dating which states it's from the period of Ashoka. So there is no doubt about the timeline and other things. It's a very small structure. So this is how it looks now, with the gate that was not part of the original thing. The grill, that gate you see is what we have put up now as security. It has a simple cell inside, one hall and a chaitya. That's it. So this, you can go around that and come out, and this is a place for gathering. This is a very small cell that we had. This is the earliest one. Baja Caves, this is close to Pune. Beautiful sites, large by any standard. You can see this is one of the main temples. It is actually spread across almost a 2-kilometer stretch. So you have to walk a lot. There are not one, but how many? 11? 12 such structures there. When you see the structures, you will automatically associate it with a place of learning. It should have been, because there are so many cells, so many classrooms kind of places where they should have held the universities or whatever they were doing as part of BC, second BC. Yeah, 200.
In fact, there is a wooden rafter on top.
And it is wood.
And it survived 2,200 years.
These are, as I told you, there are 12 such. Some of those halls are small, some of them are big, but you walk through that, and they have interesting sculptures. We presume the other one is an Indra on the elephant. The other we couldn't decipher much.
There's this interesting deer here.
Yes. Karla Caves, which is also close to Pune. Meaning all this is in one circuit. This is again a huge hall, very huge hall, all completely wooden, no, completely rock. And here the rafters are actually wood carved to look like, these arches are all stone made to look like wood. And each of those columns have a capital. The capital has different kind of postures, and each has an elephant, but no single sculptures are same. Everything is unique, and you see them as a row on each side.
And this is again the wood that survived, the original one.
The sculptures here, a typical stylization you can make out, and where you see very more human like, but slightly amplified proportions, smooth curves, and realist. Buddha comes as a depiction. Prior to that, you will not see, because that is how we can state it to be later. Lama Sashi, you don't see a mention of Buddha. And this would be later because Buddha is now shown in person. So once you see Buddha as in person, then you know the Buddhism has split between Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism has occurred, and Buddha is now shown in perspective, in person. Ajanta caves again, what we just saw. It is between 2nd and 7th century. This is the face of Padmapani that Vijay had spoken about some time back. Okay. This is a flautist. You can see another thing to note in Ajanta caves is that the women who is supposed to be the central figure is always shown in a darker color, and the people who are maids are shown in fairer color. So the way it was associated then, the darker people being more, they preferred color preference of those days.
And here is an interesting depiction. You see, she's got multiple ear piercings. She's got one earring here. The oldest painting.
It should be cave 10. Cave 10. Cave 10. If you start comparing the paintings from each of those caves, that is how you get a historical perspective. Cave 10 is supposed to be the earliest of these caves, where you see all in straight profile. Every figure is only given a frontal perspective and not other ways. And this 1/3, 2/3 profile, reverse profile all start coming over a period. And then you hit a period between 5th to 6th century when you call it the Baroque period, where the ornamentation is heavy. And then it tapers off. The last period being, you see stencil kind of work, meaning Buddha being repeated 1,000 times over in a single wall, all of small but not classical in style and representation.
So the painting that this is cave 10.
This is cave 1. Padmapani is from cave 1. Ellora caves, the paintings are typically seen in the Jain caves. Okay, now Ellora. We touched upon Ellora during the last session. So the lower, as I said, it is not one single structure. If you see rear, there is one mandapa. The main center, which is 3-tier, is the centerpiece. Front there is Ardhamandapa, which is two-tiered, and the first Mukhamandapa, in which you had the Narasimha and other figures that we saw or we spoke about. This is not from. This is one of the panels in Ellora. I don't remember which cave, but it is not from Kailasnatha. This is a composition where Shiva and Parvati are playing dice. In the top, you would see Shiva sitting and Parvati sitting, and they are playing a game of dice. They are flanked by others. At downs, you see Nandi, but Nandi is actually completely being what is the word to use? The Ganas are actually troubling him so much. You can see each of those Ganas into some mischief or other. All of Ellora, you can see, like he showed with Ravana when he was Ravana Anugrahamurti in that statue, how Ravana was being beaten by the Ganas. Here you'll again see the Ganas playing one mischief or another tantrum with Nandi. Well, again, this is another from Ellora. What you see up is two women, and how their back and the frontal posture is being depicted, which is kind of unique. And the woman who's showing her back is showing her face in half profile. You see a profile of the face and the back, and the rear woman in the rear is showing the front. The Ganas each of them are playing different kind of instruments. So what you can also understand from these is which kind of instrument, what instruments were in vogue then, and what have come into play, and how we have adopted to those instruments from then on. This is Dashavatara cave. The entrance to this, it's a 2 tiers cave. This is the layout.
8th, 9th century.
8th.
1200 years. So now, anybody who want to do engineering, imagine the complexity. What you are seeing here is like a beehive. And imagine this is not something they planned from the top. So this is like a cave where they go create rooms. So every room here is actually into the hill. So now imagine you are facing a hard rock. So you have to visualize a room with pillars, with sculptures, with a sanctum, with a door, entrance arch. And if it's a Shiva cave, you have to have a Shivalinga inside and a Nandi outside, all out of the own rock. So that is just the small complications that you come up with. And imagine they did this without computers, without calculators, without mobile phones, without cameras, all with maybe just on the floor they would draw the design in a piece of chalk and brains. So we have to find out where those brains went. So this is another cave, very interesting, in Himachal Pradesh. Masroor. This is of softer stone, almost marble, but the idea is the scale, and roughly you can see the general construction plan. It follows another iconic structure. Does it look like Angkor? It does, right? Roughly. So the thing is, what we have to see in all these sites is, these sites, whenever you see, don't climb on top of them. Yeah, see it from the outside. Don't jump on it. When you go to Mahabalipuram, you see the bull, elephant, don't climb on them. Why? Because if 100 times you climb, 100 more like you do, you will damage the structure. Yeah. So respect heritage. Don't pose for photographs holding on. No, it's Gopuras which have been.
It suffered 90s. It suffered a major earthquake. So No, each one is a
It's a shrine. It's a rock cut shrine. This again is an excavated, trenched cave. Okay. So we just come down south a bit into central and upper Karnataka. Fantastic site, hot as hell, and full of pigs. So much that the dynasty's emblem was the Varaha. What is the dynasty? Chalukyas. The Chalukyas of Badami. So the Tamil cinema goers here, Pulikesi. So Iruvathimunam Pulikesi is a bad caricature. Pulikesi was one of the greatest kings of the Chalukyas. Yeah. So don't take up Vadivelu's Pulikesi. The real Pulikesi was a great general. He came down to Kanchipuram, laid siege to Kanchipuram, captured it almost. There are two different editions. So the Pallavas say he didn't capture, he only came up to our door. But anyway, he came all the way from upper Karnataka, Gadag, down to Kanchipuram. But, and a big but, the Pallavas took revenge. They raised an army, went up to Badami, burnt it down, and erected a victory stupa there. And even today, if you go, there is an inscription there which talks about the king who took back Vatapi Konda Narasimha Varman. So history is repeat with these conquests. So if you are stricken, if somebody hits you, you fall down, don't lie on the floor. Get up and fight back. Yeah. So losers also have a history if you fight back. So now we are going to see Badami. Badami is a fantastic site. The earliest inscription is dating to around the foundation inscription 543 CE, which 6th century. Now, why we talk about foundation inscription? You shouldn't be putting the Tamil Nadu perspective to Indian art. Yeah, so we have to see everywhere there are specials. Yeah, so whatever is old, rich, good, we should appreciate. So don't get an argument who is older. Tamil Nadu is older. If you look at Mahabalipuram, is dated to 600 onwards. Now Badami is 60 years before that. They started sculpting into a slightly softer stone, but equally difficult, but larger scale. Imagine this size and brilliantly carved sculptures. You see, there is a dancing Nataraja there, and inside there's a small cave where you have a Mahishasura Mardini and a Ganesha. And inside, if you go, actually about 40 people can go inside comfortably. And all these rocks, pillars are again, remember, don't think I'm repeating again, of the original stone. So it's not something they have kept here. And as Arvind said, beautiful dancing ganas down below. So this is a series of caves. You climb up, you see one cave after the other. And each of these have massive sculptures. There you have Vishnu. Now, what Banga is this? Is he flexing? Sama Banga. Very good. So, straight. Now, what flexion is this? So, there is 1, 2 and 3. Triple flexion. So, you have both. Vishnu normally is shown straight profile with a long tubular crown. So, Vishnu's crown, Vishnu is Alangara Priya. He likes to ornament himself. Shiva is Abhisheka Priya. I think he must be in hot climate. Always wants to be in the water. So here you have Shiva, Ardhanari form, and with the bull, and then you have Vishnu. Now what is interesting, in early Vishnus, what is Vishnu's attribute? What do you call attribute? What is Vishnu's weapon? Tanga Chakra. So where is the conch here? Conch is here. Chakra is here. What is Shiva's attribute? Axe and antelope. Parashu and antelope. Now antelope story we will come later. Now this discus or the chakra, how he holds it is an important tool. In early, meaning before 9th century, Vishnu holds the discus like this, not like this. So he holds it like this. This is called prayoga. He is about to throw. Now this one is ornamental, just for show. So if you see a Vishnu sculpture holding a discus like this, most likely it's after 10th century. If he holds it like this, it's called Prayoga Chakra, means before 10th century. So let's see if you can spot the Prayoga Chakra. Another thing that you have to see in Vishnu, Shiva gave half his body to his wife. That's why he's Ardhanari, right? So what did Vishnu do? With Lakshmi, keep quiet. So she sat on his chest. So you see Lakshmi will be depicted on the right chest of Vishnu. So as we go into, you will see this iconography. Keep going. So this is what I said. So when they excavate the cave, they have to excavate all these pillars and the sanctum with the linga and the Nandi of the original rock. Perfectly aligned. So this is another distinguishing feature. If you go to Pallava, early Pallava cave temples, which you will see, the sanctum is empty. Meaning they had a movable Moolavar. Whereas the Pandya land and in the Chalukyas, they had a mother rock Shivaling. So that's me, another colleague of mine. So what are we trying to do? These guys are so crazy, they made relief panels here. So we are trying to document it at profile here. We can't even see, but the craftsman went and did the... So imagine they picked the rock out of the hill and they have sculpted caves after caves after caves. You know how long it would have taken for them to sculpt? Less than 8-9 years. I think they must have had standing armies. So when the army has no work, use them for this. So they use them to make... So all the reservoirs you see in Tamil Nadu are done by the Chola army. Veeranam is Veeranarayanapura. Veeranarayana is name of a Chola king. So every lake, today we are not respecting them, but they had water management. And now I want to look at the alignment. Now you have plumb lines, right? So imagine plumb lines you do when you do brick structures, but here you have to cut 90 degrees and align. So this is one side, that's the other side. So imagine the degree of error. Yeah. And this is the Ganesha and the Mahishasuramardini that we talked about. Now here you note the early Ganesha in Tamil Nadu, we don't see till the 5th, 6th centuries. There is no Ganesha worship. And the popular belief is Ganesha was a separate sect called Ganapadiyam. And Ganapati means head of Shiva's Ganas. He was later brought in. So when the Pallava army marched on and defeated Pulikesi, the Pallava general actually brought back the Vatapi Ganapati. So any Carnatic musicians here using Vatapi Ganapati, that means the Pallava general who later became one of the monks, Sirutondar, he brought back a Ganesha which is today kept in worship in Tamil Nadu. That's why it's called Vatapi Ganapati. And this early Ganeshas had only 2 hands. Normally when you see any Hindu god, later creations, they are never shown with 2 hands. Humans will be 2 hands, gods will be at least 4 hands. Now you see here, Mahishasuramardini has 4 hands. Mahisha is the bull demon here. But normally Ganesha is shown with 2 hands here. Go on. So this is again, when you excavate, you need to understand the capability of the rock to hold weight. You can't just carve out the rock. So initially, they experimented with pillars. And then they realized the pillars is not required, the rock is strong enough. They did away with the pillars. They just excavated a whole room inside when the rock was dense enough. Yeah. It's a slightly, no, it's slightly harder than sandstone.
Badami is not. But it's a softer stone
Then granite. It's not as hard as granite, but it's not as soft as sandstone. Unfortunately, all these caves are also painted, and we lost the paintings the last 20 years. In fact, the ASI site office has a few replica photographs, which are the only available copies of these paintings. Yeah. So all these paintings are gone. So we go on slightly down, Aihole. This is a beautiful cave which is showing a very interesting depiction, which first time we see. Go inside. This depiction is a Shiva dancing, and on the side you have the Saptamatrikas, the 7 mothers. Go on. And on one side, who is this on the left? Right? Mahishasuramardini. Good. We can go on. And that's me and another friend of mine. Arvind is a photographer. And that's how beautifully they have sculpted. Imagine as you enter the cave, the entrance is on the left, right here. And you turn, they made a smaller sanctum. The main sanctum is here. Next, you'll have the main sanctum. So this is the main sanctum. And the shivling is also made of the original rock.